With me now is Spiked Online Editor Tom Slater. Tom, already the files have been, well, what's been released so far have been explosive. When these are released, I understand within 30 days they have to be given to Congress. This is going to unleash a lot of allegations, some very true and damaging, and some will be just based on the merest passing association. What do you think?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Sharri. There is obviously two ways to look at the Epstein files controversy, one of which is that there is clearly much that the public needs to know about who knew what about Jeffrey Epstein's depraved activities and when. But there's also been this feeding frenzy. We've seen it unleashed against Republicans and Donald Trump in recent days, increasingly lurid allegations based often just on bits of rumour and scandal mongering. And now it seems like Trump hopes that some of that will be unleashed against the Democrats as this comes out in time. And I think it's just really important at points like this that you do make that separation between people who definitely do have questions to answer, who definitely do have some guilt to be apportioned to them, and other people who are just going to be effectively tainted by association, not least because of the fact that Epstein was very successful at just finagling his way in to elite circles, to powerful people. So even though this is being presented by Donald Trump as the kind of end of the matter, I dare say what we're going to end up with is plenty of sort of scandal mongering and picking over this from all sides of politics, who will be provided with plenty of ammunition by these files.
It's extraordinary also that while the Epstein files have always been a big story, this was never used by the transparency crowd against the Biden administration. It's only been used against Donald Trump.
I know that's become really grimly explicit over the course of the past week. It's very clear that because the Democrats failed to defeat Trump at the ballot box, they want to use the Epstein files to bring him down. There's a bit of that on both sides, of course. We've seen that in what Donald Trump has said in the past 24 hours about how the Democrats' hands are, if anything, dirtier by this scandal than Republicans. But that particular attempt to exploit what is depraved crimes with many victims just to land political blows against your opponents, I think that's a really unpleasant development in politics. And as you say, has been very much used by the resistance crowd, by the Democrats, to try and do to Trump to bring him down what they fundamentally failed to do at the election.
Well, exactly. But they were in power for 4 years. There was a Biden administration. The Biden Department of Justice had the files. They could have released them. They weren't pressuring their own Justice Department to declassify them then. Just to move on to the new Russia-Ukraine peace plan. Now, the Trump administration has drawn up, said to be a secret new proposal to end the war. What do you think this will involve? How will it be different? And again, does it come down to major land concessions?
That seems to be the case, at least from what we've been reported so far. I mean, the FT has some of the details talking about the need for Ukraine to kind of cede the remainder of the eastern Donbass territory, including land that they're currently militarily in control of. There are calls in there reportedly to abandon kind of key forms of weaponry that have been absolutely essential for Ukraine to repel the Russian invaders. There's also discussion about potentially Ukraine having to halve its army in order to please the Kremlin. So this is at a very early stage. This really is essentially a plan that no one has seen published publicly. But from the reporting, it does seem to mirror the sort of maximalist demands made by Moscow, which is going to be deeply concerning to Kiev. As ever, there's always a lot of smoke and mirrors. As ever, there's always a lot of game playing going on. Is this what the final plan will look like? Is this about trying to bounce Ukraine into making some kind of concession, even if they're not as extreme as are being reported at the moment? All that will become clear in the coming days. But I think depressingly for those of us who do support Ukraine in its fight for its independence, it does feel like because of the weakness of the government over there, because of the fact that the military campaign has ground to this stalemate, which is, if anything, favouring Russia, they're in a particularly weak position.
Exactly. Just very quickly, we've got less than a minute here, but you've recently released a documentary which has now been censored. What has happened?
Yes, Sharri, our free speech documentary was censored. So it's called Think Before You Post, about the rise of British speech policing. We were due to have our premiere at an East London cinema called Rich Mix, and they cancelled it at the last minute, saying that the film didn't align with its values. So that a free speech documentary being banned, the irony wasn't lost on us, but it certainly was lost on this venue, who, if they do have any values, free speech clearly isn't one of them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I hope you get the documentary up online, get it shared widely, because, you know, this sort of hypocrisy, I mean, counting something over free speech when we see just hate speech left unchecked on the streets, unbelievable. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.